Welcome back to Let the Journey Begin. I am your host, Jason Waller, alongside my co-host, Hilary Roberts. How are you?
Hi.
I feel like I haven't seen or talked to you in like 2 weeks, man. It's been a while.
It's been forever. It feels longer than that because it's been longer than that, bro.
Has it?
Yeah. Oh, wait.
No, we've talked
we
a couple times.
Yeah, but you're like over in Wyoming with your family, and then I'm in Mexico. Tell me, how was Wyoming?
Wyoming was absolutely incredible. One of my most favorite trips with my family. Delilah learned how to ski. Every morning we woke up, there was outside, there was like otters, there was elk, there was, wildlife everywhere. It was just it was what I needed, especially going through a move, and transitioning. We have, that move is going to be very, very big for us. Coming up here soon. And so it was just a nice way to really have some quality time and bonding time with not only my wife and my daughter, but my parents and my siblings as well. So it was special. But I want to hear about your trip to Mexico. I want to hear about, I know you want to give us an update on the embryos, just so everybody knows. Hilary is wanting to have a child. And she's frozen some eggs over the course of time, and I want to hear the update. You got some updates for us regarding if you can have a kid or not.
I do. So we were in Mexico, and we extended our trip. We were there for
where in Mexico?
6 days. Puerto Vallarta.
Nice,
Sorry.
nice.
I was in Puerto Vallarta, and we were kind of at this place that's a little more party time and timeshares, and they were trying to power sell us timeshares. And it was fun. We went jet skiing and did other stuff. But then we moved over to the St. Regis in Punta Mita.
Punta Mita.
And Mita, whatever. Punta Mita. Gringa. No, just kidding. And that was like the polar opposite, and it was very relaxing. And I wanted to because on the particular Wednesday, they had said, well, out of the 28 eggs you have frozen, 10 survived, but only 5 fertilized. And the email that was sent was very ominous, and it was right after we had gone ziplining.
Now, is that a lot or a little?
They were hoping for 10 fertilized, because then the process gets harder and harder as you move along. Like there's just so many steps to jump through. So what happened was,
did you say 10? I thought you said there was 20 and then there was 10.
There was 28. 10 thawed out of the 28 because eggs are very fragile.
Understood.
Okay. And then what happened is that out of that, they hooked up him and her, and the hers to 5 of them were like, I don't think so, boy. So there were 5 embryos, and I was really worried, and I thought, I don't know. But then I asked my sweetheart if we could stay. So we stayed until last Tuesday, and then, which was beautiful. And we had the most romantic dinner for 17 months together, or is it 16 months? I forget, but whatever. Oh, it's 16 months. 16 months. Every month we celebrate. Who does that? Only us, but it's okay. Anyway, so then the next day when we came back on Wednesday, they said, because they had said to me, your best chance is 50% will survive to blastocyst over the next 6 days. I had everybody praying, and guess what? 3 out of 5. That's better than 50%. God in your face.
Yeah. Amen.
And so now we're waiting until we have to wait 2 weeks from that date. So I guess Tuesday in a week, in a little over a week, we're going to know how many survive, how many are viable. They take a cell off of there. And just to give our listeners, this is what the doctor said. They said that when you're in your 20s and early 30s, 1 out of 3 eggs is normal. And then when you're 40, when I froze mine, 1 out of 10. So I just need everybody's prayers. And, we just want them to be healthy. And then from there, if, when they're all great, then we get the surrogate and start moving forward.
Well, we'll definitely keep you in prayer. That's huge. And thank you for updating us all. And definitely will be in our thoughts for sure. You guys,
Thanks,
before we have our guest on, I just want to let you know to please give us a rating and a review on whichever podcast platform that you listen, which now includes Spotify. We'd really appreciate it. It helps us. And we're going to jump right into this.
These guests that we're about to have on, I don't really need the paper to look at this. These are friends of mine for the last 11 years, and they live in the New Forest of England, and they are family to me. They're some of the most beautiful people I've ever known, and I want to introduce my amazing friends, Annie and Kevin.
Thanks, Hilary. Thanks for having us.
Good morning, America.
What's up, guys? Good to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah, it is. It's been a minute since I've seen you guys, but I have actually seen you guys face to face, which is very nice.
I'm going to try really hard not to cry, but I already want to, so I just don't think I'm going to succeed.
You're not crying. I'm crying.
Okay, so I guess I'm supposed to ask you the first question, which I think is funny. So we'll start with you, Annie, and then we'll move over to Kevin. Annie first. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a nun.
No way. Yeah.
And she is darn close, y'all. Although she'd argue with me about it.
Yeah. Seriously, I was a good girl at a good Catholic school.
That is so amazing. That is so amazing.
Rad.
Kevin, what did you want to be?
I don't really know. I think at one point in time I was thinking about joining the military because
Okay.
I learned to play cornet at school. It's a bit of a tragic story, really, but I learned to play cornet at school. And I thought that I was going to join the Marines because my buddy who I was playing cornet with, we kind of competed with one another. It was, from week in, week out, we kind of he'd learn a little bit more than I'd learn a little bit more. And then tragically, he lost his life. He got electrocuted and died. And I just gave it up. I just thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. And even the guy that was teaching me was saying to me, you should keep going. You should keep going. Even you should keep going for your friend. But I just didn't have the heart to do it. So I kind of gave up on it, really.
No, I'm so sorry for your loss. When you say you're playing corner, is that what it's called?
Trumpet.
Got it. Okay, got it.
He speaks the real English language.
Yeah,
Jason.
well, you know me. I need everything in layman's terms, okay?
Just playing.
No, but I'm sorry to hear about your friend. Well, I want to know how did you two meet?
Ooh.
Well,
in a pub.
I got accepted in the army to do nurse training, and I wanted desperately to learn to drive. And in our family, we were very much encouraged not to rely on our parents. So I went and got a job in a local pub. And as I walked in, I went, ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I went from that.
I love that. Well, it's kind of interesting. Yeah. It's interesting though that you both. So you, wanted to be a nun, but you actually ended up in the military. I mean, you got accepted from the military to be a nurse, and then so what happened from there? I'm curious.
Well, I was helping the guy that owned the pub do some work on the pub. I'd actually embarked on an apprenticeship as a yacht and boat builder, and I was working on his boat, which was in the back of the car park of the pub. And he said to me one day, would I give him a hand with some work inside the pub? And I said, sure. So I was working away, and that's when Annie walked in. And I used to get paid, rather than get paid in pounds, shillings and pence, I get paid on how much beer I could have, which was very interesting.
Which was a lot.
Wow. So, okay. That's quite the story how you guys connected. And so.
Yeah. Kevin was the drinker, but I want to talk about when you asked him out, I think you asked him to the ferry or something, Annie, something happened.
Oh, it's amazed we actually ever got married because we went to, was it Jersey?
Jersey.
Yeah.
Channel Islands.
And we had little seats, nothing, still a good Catholic girl at this stage. And he just was quite reticent about doing anything really. So I had to ask if I could hold his hand. And I thought, this is never going to go anywhere. I think I may as well go back to being a nun.
Oh my God. Okay, so that's interesting though. So I did not remember that from the first time we connected. So Kevin, you actually struggled with alcoholism, and Annie, you did not struggle with alcoholism. So what was that like watching or experiencing Kevin go through this as you were somebody that did not either enjoy alcohol or just didn't really partake in it?
I didn't quite understand about the illness, that it was an illness. I just thought he was doing it on purpose to get back at me for something that I don't know what I'd done. So I decided to do all manner of things to stop him, because he was forever saying, we've run out of milk. And then he'd come back drunk. So I put laxative in his coffee. I thought that'd stop him.
Oh my! And so, what were some of those behaviors, though? I mean, from your side, Annie, when you first met him, and he's this guy that you love, and you're you're caring about, and now you start to see him go down this progressive disease of alcoholism, right? I mean, obviously there's the funny sides of putting laxatives in his drinks and having
coffee for you. Whatever you do, don't get her to make coffee.
I won't. I'll make sure that I'll just order next time. But I'm just curious. So what were some of those? Because a lot of people are in your shoes, Annie, that struggle with people that are alcoholics that are in your shoes, and very few times do you see them sit next to each other how many years later. So, I mean, what was that like for you? And can you kind of walk us through that process and where that ended up taking you guys?
Yeah, from the codependent aspect, like what you watched. And so one of the things that she did, because this is the insanity of the codependent. Right, Annie? Because the alcoholic takes the drink and the codependent takes the alcoholic or addict or whatever.
Yeah, I became a Mrs. Fixer, and I thought he just needed various things, like we needed a house of our own, we needed kids, and I just started to provide everything that I thought would fix it. And I just thought it was depression because he was so young. He hadn't lost his driving license. I didn't think that it was alcoholism at the time, if I'm honest, because over here we think of an alcoholic still, I think of someone on a park bench with a newspaper with a possible dog there. Don't see him as someone that's working and that's quite successful. I mean, we had a lot of money worries, which was horrendous. So he started hiding the bottles and I started hiding the money. We played this game of hide and seek where he'd try and find the money and I'd try and find the bottles. And I thought, what if I throw it away? Then he can't drink. But, just nothing worked. And I was full of shame because I couldn't sort him and I couldn't fix him. And it just, it brought me to my knees. It really, really did. I just didn't want to see the person that I loved struggle. And I didn't understand about the illness. And I know now it's recognized as an illness by the World Health Organization. And I remember going to a priory over here, a treatment center.
What's a priory?
Treatment center over here. And they, you probably don't have them over there. And they were saying about how when Kevin took a drink, he would produce a chemical in his bloodstream that says he'd have to have more. I thought I sort of understand that, because I can't have like one chocolate from the chocolate bar. I just can't put the lid down on the Quality Street. I don't know if you have those over there either. Big tin. Used to be big tin, now small tin. Can't open lid, have one, and then put the lid down and think I'll have another in 6 months. So I understood that from that point of view. I didn't really think there was much going for us. I thought our marriage was over, if I'm honest, and we just celebrated 41 years. And I know most people break up when their partner is sober.
Let me ask you this. Which one of you got help first? You did. Okay, so you sought out a support group?
I did go. And I wasn't used to going out in the evening. So when I came home, Kevin came to the only conclusion he could come to, which was I was having an affair. There's more chance of me going to the moon. I would come home happy, and he just couldn't work it out. So he thought I'm having an affair. But obviously something happened within me because he looked at me and said, okay, I'll go and try to seek help for myself.
How long were you going to that other support group before he decided to venture off and get his own help?
6 months.
Wow. You guys danced that dance for a while.
Yeah.
Dang. How old were the kids? How old were the kids at that time?
6 and 4.
Yeah. Wow.
Holy cow. And now what type of strain did that have on the relationship as a whole, those 8 years? I mean, I think it's obviously pretty apparent, but I mean, just from your guys' perspective.
It had a huge, huge strain on our relationship. We didn't really have a relationship.
No, because it got to the point whereby I'd come in and you pick up the car keys and you just disappear. And we wouldn't communicate, we just wouldn't communicate. And then you would come back at whatever time. And then...
What was going through your head, Kevin, during all this? I
was just trying to figure the whole thing out. I thought there's obviously she's obviously seeing somebody else. That's what I thought. But she was getting help elsewhere. And of course, when I did come in on many occasions, I did come home, I was usually drunk. So, I don't remember.
Did you ever tell her you wouldn't drink again? Sorry, Kevin.
All the time. She often talks about the times that I walked in and the first thing I'd say to her is, I haven't been drinking. And I'd walk straight into the wall or something, Big giveaway, it really was. And so, I wasn't the best. I mean, part of my story is the fact that we had a neighbor 3 doors along that used to come and put everything right, because I quite often used to drive the car home to the back door, leave the engine on, the lights on, keys in the ignition and the radio going, and just walk indoors and leave it. And a guy at the end of the road used to come along, turn everything off, put the keys through the letterbox. I didn't know any of this until I got sober.
Well, so, and because I mean, you said, that you're alluding to, Annie potentially seeing somebody or, it was going through your head. So Annie, why were you keeping this a secret? Why were you keeping you getting help a secret?
We didn't really have conversations. We seemed to have arguments and it can be over the silliest of things. So I just thought it was best to keep quiet. And I was trying to work out in my head, is he an alcoholic? Because he hadn't been to prison. He hadn't lost a driving license. He hadn't been involved with the police. He was 28, I didn't envisage him. So I was still learning, and I was learning about the illness as well.
And I think you think, well, you work hard, you play hard.
Yeah, all the excuses why you drank. We used to say there's 3 in our marriage, and the other girl was called Stella, because over here we've got a drink called Stella Artois. Don't know if it's...
Okay.
We all have it here too.
All right, okay. So I used to say, well, there's 3 in my marriage, and the other one's called Stella.
Oh my gosh. No, I mean, that totally makes sense. I mean, when you're in a place of such destruction from alcoholism and the disease, it is apparent that, I mean, just the easiest of conversations and communication are almost impossible. And I can relate to that completely. I was in that state as well. And Kevin, I have a question for you. So looking back now, I mean, you entered into this marriage obviously struggling, but was it apparent at that time, or was it more things were kind of still more together, or had you been struggling even years prior to this?
If I look back, I was struggling with alcohol from the moment I first took it. I'd started drinking as a kid, but I thought,
when was your first drink?
Probably around about 7 or 8 years old.
Wow. So when people would call you out on your drinking, Kevin, what would you tell yourself, or what would you tell them? What would you tell yourself?
I'd just say, well, I like a drink. I like a drink. I mean, I did some stupid things. I can remember I was about 12 years old, and I can remember me and my buddy went to go and join the Scouts. And we went one particular night when something was going on, and they said, look, you haven't got any uniform or anything. Here's a little job for the 2 of you. And we had to go and clean the minibus. But in cleaning the minibus, we found some wine. I think it was communion wine. So me and my buddy started drinking the communion wine. And then we thought, hey, there's keys in this minibus. We started the minibus up, and we took the minibus out on the road. And I think we drove it for about 3 or 4 miles. And then I don't know what happened. It just packed in. I don't know whether it got flooded or whether it ran out of fuel or whatever. So we just left it and went home.
Oh my God.
We had the priest knocking on the door later on, trying to figure out where we were and what had happened to the bus. And so as you can imagine, that was the end of the Scouts. So there was things like that happened. But, my father was an alcoholic, and later on admitted that he had an alcohol problem literally 3 days before he passed. But my grandfather used to go on about my drinking and the fact that I drank, and that he said that, he was trying his best to try and pass a message to me, but I just wasn't listening. I just thought, have a few drinks. What's the big deal?
So were you a day drink? Were you an everyday drinker?
Not every day.
I
was, I was, what do they call it? I was about drinker. It's about time I had another, no, I was, it was, whenever I took alcohol, I knew that I couldn't stop. So whenever there was an opportunity, usually family functions of some sort, and I'd have a drink and I'd be put to bed, and that'd be it. Nothing would be said. So
just what I'm also taking away from this is obviously, it damaged your relationships and stuff like that, but to some degree, you're also a functioning alcoholic, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I carried on working, although I got told many a time when I went to work. I think I had 3 jobs in a week or something or other at one point in time. because I'd usually leave before I get told.
I want to pull a side note in here, Hill, real quick. In regards to functioning alcoholics, because there's a lot of people I think that struggle with that out here. Is there something you could talk to about that to bring maybe some light or clarity for individuals like that? Because a lot of people do revert back to, especially when they're in denial, of like, hey, I've never been in trouble with the law. I've never been, I'm not losing my job. And can you just speak to that if somebody's in that state? Do you have any advice or words of encouragement for them?
All I would say is that I got up, I got to work, I did my work, and I got home. So as Annie was saying, I thought somebody that was an alcoholic was a guy that was just out of it on a park bench somewhere. The fact that I could actually get up and do what I call a day's work, but it probably wasn't, in truth. But the mere fact that I could actually carry out that whole thing and just complete whatever it was, whatever that task might be for the day. In my own mind, I thought, well, there's no problem here,
Right. When was when did you figure out that you had a problem? Like, you saw Annie going to her support system of people for her codependency. So what made you decide, hey, I'm going to go get help now? Because, for an alcoholic, you can roll out the red carpet or bash them over the head, everything, and it just doesn't work.
I think there was a few things. I think I'd gotten to the point where it really wasn't working anymore, where I was looking at it and staring at it, and I was in that miserable place. There's a certain book that says, it calls it the jumping off point. And in that particular book, it mentions about it. But, I gotten to that point where it really wasn't working. Plus the fact that Annie had made it quite clear on a few occasions that she just couldn't carry on with the way I was. And I think the other thing was I come to one morning, and quite often the first thing I would do is I would come to and think, wow, I'm still here. And I'd get up and I'd look out the window and I'd look to see if the car was there, which way the car was pointing, to give me some idea of kind of, did I make it back okay? It looks like I made it back okay, so that's okay. But on this particular occasion, I think that the house just seemed empty, and I don't know. I vaguely remember something about, I think Annie had left a note, or she just basically said, I can't do this anymore. And I think maybe everything was just about right. We talk about the ingredients have to be right sometimes, and I think the combination of it not really working, the fact that we were so much in debt, the fact that my work situation wasn't great, our marriage wasn't great because of the situation and my drinking, I just somehow knew that I couldn't carry on the way I was going. And I'd already phoned and spoken to an organization prior, probably 6 months prior, to try and do something about it. And somebody had come and talked to me, and I just kind of knew that I'd reached the end of the road. I'd had 2 failed suicide attempts, so I think all this kind of thing builds up somehow, and just maybe as a priest said to me one day, he said, "You addicts have a wonderful way of finding your higher power," and I said, "What's that, Father?" He says, "You have a rock bottom. And something happens when you have that rock bottom." And I think I had that rock bottom at that moment. And if you like,
wow,
that moment, the God of my understanding, whatever that may be, and I still don't know what that is.
Can I talk to you about suicide real quick?
Yeah.
Is because, that's something that was oftentimes, it's obviously here in the States, it's growing rampantly and it's happening all over. I understand that. Annie, were you guys, this was probably in the thick of everything. And Annie, were you aware of the severity of his depression and where he was at?
Yeah. One night he came home covered in seaweed. He said, we laugh about it now, but that's the great thing, that time is a healer. He said he needed to go and see someone about a boat job, and he was going to commit suicide, and unfortunately he didn't do his homework because the tide was coming in, so he came home covered in seaweed.
Tide was going out.
Tide was going out, in fact. That would be better. Yeah, it's late over here.
So,
Wow.
Okay, I have to know how you were trying to do that. What happened?
Yeah, so he had various attempts, and I just still didn't work it out. Just I just felt like I was living on the edge all the time, trying to sort something that was totally unsortable in my mind.
So were you hoping the ocean was going to take you out to sea?
Yeah, I walked out on a walk-off pontoon, and I thought it was deep enough to just disappear, and it wasn't. I jumped in and literally came up to here.
Oh my God! Oh my
I love
God.
us.
Absolutely hopeless.
And what was the other time?
The other time was when I was nursing.
We were in an apartment block, and we were about 6 floors up, and I jumped out the window with just a pair of underpants on. I don't remember it, quite frankly. I mean, this is the other side.
Out of 6 stories?
Well, you didn't actually jump out, because if you jumped out, you wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't be here, but I was hanging onto the window sill, literally, and threatening just to let go, because Annie had just said, "I'm off, I'm going," and I said, "Well, I'm going too," and I jumped out the window, ready to let go.
Wow. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to all that, because we're just, so desperate. We don't know how to fix. We don't know how to do it. And
dying
we don't want to
inside.
lose those. Yeah. And we don't want to lose the people we love, but we can't stop. And you're desperate, Annie, and you're looking for answers. So then you guys both got into recovery. And so when did it start sorting itself out? And what did that look like for you guys, starting to sort it out individually and together?
I think for me, I was really grateful that we met another couple.
Yeah.
They were 5 years in, and they'd done absolutely all sorts of stuff, and they were laughing. And we couldn't even have a conversation about what do you want for dinner without thinking about having an argument. So I looked at the couple and I thought, do you know what? There is hope. There was hope for us. And we went to a self-help group, and this American guy actually was there, and he came up to me afterwards and he said, "You never know, you might get to like him." And I thought, how's he going to change? I just didn't work that one. I couldn't compute that one. But if I'm honest, in the early days, I stayed because he was so suicidal. I didn't want that on my conscience. But I decided that I couldn't carry on the way that we were going, and the fact that we had no relationship, no money, just continually stressed out and scared about the future.
Yeah, we'd totally grown apart.
Yeah, like two train tracks
we
going
were
the
like
other direction.
just there really because the kids,
I was just going to ask you guys what kept you together. I mean, because 8 years, that's a long time. Because I went in, I did this dance. Literally, Kevin, I was you, and my wife was Annie, and we did it it only lasted for, about a year and a half before she totally lost her marbles. But I can relate to this. So that's what it was going to be. Was that the main reason you guys stayed together, was because of the kids?
I think that was it, really, in all honesty. I mean, loads of people tried to pass. My father, when 3 days before he passed, he said, "You know what, son, I'm really worried about you drinking." And I said, "Why is that then, Dad?" He said, "You're hiding booze all around the house, and it's driving your mother mad, and she's worried to death that you're just never going to make it home one night, And he said to me, "How old are you now?" And I said, "I'm 27. He says, "You won't make 30. Not the way you're going." He says, "I don't understand it." And then he told me about his drinking and the fact that he drank in the Navy, and that he spent 2.5 years in Bermuda and was drinking rum at 1 and 6 a gallon and all this sort of thing. And he said, "I'm too late now. I got cancer. I'm going to die in the day." He said, "I don't want you to go the same way." So he desperately tried to pass the message to me, but I just wasn't ready. I really wasn't ready. Yeah.
Wow.
So so you started hanging out with this couple.
Yeah.
And how did things start changing? What started happening? Because I know there's a lot of desperate couples out there. This is the disease of alcoholism, and this is the dance.
Before we get the big transition, though, Hilary, I got to know about the freaking laxatives. Like, was that just purely I can't stand you anymore and I hate you, so I'm just going to start pouring laxatives and everything? Or what was the motive behind that, and how often did you do that?
He was frivolous saying we'd run out of something and needed to go out, and then we'd come back drunk. So I thought, well, that makes logical sense. I'll do something that keeps him home. But when he got sober, Jason, he kept saying, "My tummy's so much better." Well, I went, "Really? Oh, okay." So I then
No.
That I had put laxative in his coffee, and that's probably why his tummy was a lot better. But he said, well, they say when you give up alcohol, your tummy's so much better. I said, well, there's a bit more to it than that. But I did one other thing. I thought I was quite resourceful because I didn't actually join the military. When I met him, I went locally nurse training so that we could be together because I didn't fancy leaving him for a minute. I was just, and still am madly in love, I have to say, even after 41 years. So I couldn't feed and I couldn't clothe the kids. And we had an army barracks nearby where you could get really, really decent designer type clothes for your kids. Clothes. Yeah, kiddies' clothes for very little money. But the only thing is your husband had to be a member of the military. I joined him. I mean, how difficult is it?
Yeah, but you couldn't remember from week to week what I was. One week I was a captain, next minute I was a lieutenant, then I was on a ship, another I was on an aircraft carrier, then I was on a submarine.
I was waiting for someone to go like that. You had to queue up, you had to sign in to say what your husband was, so what rank he was, and what ship he was on, and I could never remember from one week to the next what I put. So I just would look to see what the person above me had put and thought, well, that boat's in, that will do. So I was waiting for someone to go, excuse me, but you shouldn't be here. I stole, I cheated, I did all manner of things. We had a check came in one day, and I knew that if Kevin got it, we wouldn't have any food on the table. It was that bad. So I went to the local building society, and as long as he'd signed it on the back, I could cash it. Well, I got really good at signing his signature. Still am, actually, but we won't go there. I signed his, well, actually, I'd forgotten at this stage. I was in the building society, the bank with the two kids, and the lady handed the check back and said, I'm really sorry, but you're going to have to get your husband to sign the back. To which I said, oh, no worries, he's just round the corner. And our two kids went, oh, no, he's not.
He's at work.
He's at work. I went, oh, no. I promptly signed the check, and I promptly cashed the check, and then I lied and said we hadn't had this check in, which obviously was going to get found out because he knew it was coming in. So yeah, just all manner of things. It wasn't just him. I was just as much to blame. But I said, I justified it and said, I'm doing all this because we need to pay the bills. We need to, keep the food on the table and clothes on the kids and that sort of thing. So I justified all of it, which wasn't right to do. And it was much better.
No, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally makes sense. I mean, you're in survival mode.
Yeah.
And so going back to what you were asking, Hilary.
Yeah, just, so how, because obviously you guys are just amazingly close today and you communicate so beautifully. You guys have been my heroes and I've wanted to have a marriage like yours. And so what was the process that happened for you to get to that place?